And hello, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. We are today talking to James Hume, who is your digital marketing ally. And everything we want to know today about Google Analytics, he will try to do that, but I think it's a really big subject. So today we're going to be talking about a bit analytics, where to look for the information and how to move around there. And James is going to also take us some of the points like the key features that we need to look into Google Analytics. So, hi, James.
Hi.
How are
Good
you
afternoon.
today?
Yeah,
Good
good. Thank you.
afternoon.
Good.
Are you in Cambridge, by the way?
Yeah, just north of Cambridge.
Okay. Yeah, nice. So let's get started. I think you would like to share your slides, or if you would like to say anything before we start, go ahead. I'll mention maybe now that whoever is watching us today, please feel free to ask your questions during the presentation, and James will try to take some breaks in between to answer them. Otherwise, we will have Q&A in the end of the session. So yeah, go ahead, James.
Great, sure. Brilliant. There we go. So yeah, here's kind of a business founder's intro into Google Analytics and how you can use some of those mighty metrics to kind of aid you in running your business and growing your campaigns and the way you're acquiring users who hopefully become customers on your website. Today, I want you to try and learn, and as we said at the beginning, it's a big topic, so maybe we'll scratch the surface and follow up later or dig into the questions as we go or at the end. But I want to kind of introduce you how to set up the tracking on your website, have a look at those kind of key features that you might be using in Google Analytics, how you can track goals. I mean, what we want people to do stuff when we come to our website, we call those kind of goals, and we can track them, and I'll show you a bit about that. And let's find out a bit more about how these people are coming to our website. Let's tag them. Let's, if we've got campaigns or other ways of sending traffic, we want to understand more about how they came to our website and what they did. So how we can tag those, and plus a little bit about, viewing some dashboards that you can use to review your performance as you go along. So tracking. One of the, when you're setting up your Google Analytics account, when you go to the admin and then account and the property, there's a section where you can get the tracking codes put on your website. The most important part being kind of your tracking ID number. You can use this within the code, as you can see on the screen there, that you can place on your website. And a caveat, Google Analytics recently released a new version back in October, Google Analytics 4. So I'll be flipping between the two different platforms a little bit throughout the presentation. So this is the old version where you get that code. And then here's Google Analytics 4. They call things slightly different. They set things up as kind of website streams. So the idea is that you can have a stream of data coming in from your website, or maybe a stream of data coming in from your application. But again, you can fill in your website name there. And then what you do is, again, you can get your measurement ID from this stream data once you've set it up. So there's a couple of different popular web platforms. One of them is WordPress. I imagine a lot of people on this call use WordPress or something similar. One of the easiest ways to add this Google Analytics tracking to your website is probably with a plugin. One of the popular with millions of downloads is this Monster Insights. And what that'll do is when you install it on WordPress, it will guide you through a process, and it will need that measurement ID that we just looked at from within Google Analytics. If you're using perhaps a Wix website, you can go to the marketing integration section, and then there's a prompt to connect to Google Analytics. What it will do is probably ask you to sign into your Google account, and then it will join the two together and sort that out and paste in your Google Analytics ID. And then, because it's cloud hosted, it's Wix, they'll sort care of all the mechanics of getting the code on the page for you. And again, it's a similar process if you're a Squarespace user. You just give them the analytics ID number. They worry about all the code. If you're interested in other ways of adding code to your website, be that kind of editing your WordPress theme, or using tools like Google Tag Manager, reach out, or I can pass you some resources on the internet. There's some other ways of doing it which can get a bit more complex maybe, but I think if you're just starting out, the best thing to do is use a plugin, or if you've got a cloud hosted service, just pop the code in using their tools. So once we've installed the tracking code, let's have a look at the key features. Unless we've got any questions around tagging, adding the tags to the website. I can hold on a second. Some of the other things you can do with tags, getting advanced, is you can use it to kind of capture your e-commerce data, like your revenue, and using tools like Tag Manager, you can capture custom events and things. Or as you saw, back here, with the newest version of Google Analytics, it can automatically detect some of the kind of custom things like site search and video engagement for you. So there's no need to add extra tags. Technology's come on quite a bit since 12 years ago when I started doing this. So let's talk about the key features once we get into Google Analytics. They're kind of bucketed into these 4 major topics. So you've got your kind of audience and user data telling you, about the people on your site. If you want to know, what kind of technology they're using. Are they on a phone? Are they using Chrome or Microsoft Edge web browser? Where are they in the world? If we want to learn more about them, that's within the audience section, or in the new analytics that are called users. How did we acquire these people? How did they come to the website? You find that under acquisition. That can show you like your campaigns and your traffic sources. And then you've got your behavior or engagement on the new version, which will tell you, well, where did they go on my website? What did they do when they were here? What did they get up to? What are the most popular pages? And then lastly, in terms of these top key features, we've got the conversions and the monetization. This is where we can view our goals. How many people have successfully done the things we want them to do on the website? And also, monetization or kind of e-commerce tracking. Are they, how many sales are we getting? If we've connected that data together, we can see like products and revenue, and then track that back to acquisition sources, and it all gets very exciting. So audience and users. So what we have here is the view of the audiences. So we can see, how many users have come to the site, how many of them are new. That's quite a useful thing to check. You see there on the pie chart on the right-hand side, we can see what percentage are new and returning visitors. Now, depending on your website, these stats may change slightly. We can also see kind of the language and breakdown of the country, and how many pages per session, their bounce rate. Some of these are getting into kind of behavior, but people ask, should I be worried about bounce rate, time on site, number of pages? You've got to all take it with a lot of context. If you're driving someone to a blog page and they come along and they read the blog and then they leave, maybe that's fine that they bounce. But as a site-wide thing, it's healthy to just monitor how these metrics are all doing, especially if you're making a major change to your website. Have you gone and broken something, thrown something around, changed the way users interact with it? But this is where you can kind of see demographics about them. One thing I do like about this, and I still find people forgetting it, is looking at those stats of, well, what kind of device are my users on? Are they on a mobile? Are they on a desktop? So many people sit here, building their websites on desktops, and then forget to check that, in this case, 66% of people were viewing it on a mobile. Did you stop? Did you look at your website on a mobile? Was it easy to use? And here you can see, metrics around bounce rate and pages per sessions based by device, and you could quickly learn, well, are people finding it easy to use my site on a mobile? So this is one of the top ones I like looking at, along with technology, when I'm kind of debugging and understanding what my users they're using, or where they might be, hitting pinch points. So how do we acquire these users? This is one of the, my favorite reports. It's the Source Medium report. And this can give you a breakdown of all the different places where you're getting traffic from, and then extra data around how they interacted on the website. It can give you an idea in terms of, especially from your social media, where they're coming from. So you might be a small business and thinking, why do I need to look at Google Analytics? I'm just doing my social media. You could use this to understand, well, which social channel am I actually driving people to my website from? Oh, I'm getting a lot of people from Facebook. Maybe I should do more work on Facebook and just forget about Pinterest, because I'm not getting too many from that. Or it could be the other way around. Equally, it's great for discovering, traffic sources you may not have been aware of. So you can see here, number 3 on the chart for this website, they've got a link and some traffic coming through from, shopsmallloveindie.co.uk. Now, if they hadn't, maybe they didn't put that partnership in place and they didn't know that existed, they could then go, oh, I'm getting 8 visitors from that. Maybe I could get more. Maybe I should reach out to that website and see if we can collaborate and do some more stuff together, and they could feature me more or run some ads. You can discover traffic sources and then hopefully try and grow them by looking at this report. And in the new version of Google Analytics 4, they've spruced it up a bit, put some nice charts, but essentially, you've got that source medium kind of view where you can see where people are coming from. So what do they do when they get there? How do they engage with your site? So you can see an overview of kind of the top pages that people are looking at. And again, there's bounce and exit and page time on site. This is great if you want to understand the top pages people are looking at. This one, it's an e-commerce site. Most people are looking at the shop. Maybe this could inspire you to do a bit more work on your blog and get more people there. Or equally, you can see 16 people viewed the contact page. And you might be like, well, 16 people didn't contact me. How can I make it easier for people to contact me? They're getting to that page. They're not picking up the phone. They're not filling out a form. Geez, I better do something about that. And you can find that kind of information here within the behavior report. Now, what would be even better is if we track those people who contacted us, or we track those sales that came through the e-commerce website. So this is the kind of conversion section where we can track the different ways people have kind of engaged with the website to do the things we want to do. Yeah, this is fine. So here, what I'm showing is the goals that were completed for this website within kind of February, March time. And I can see, we've got like 100 or so, 150 so there. But even better, what you can do with the date picker at the top right there is compare it to a previous time. So you can be like, well, am I doing better than last year? So here we've compared February this year to February last year, and like, oh yeah, we're doing good. We're doing better than what we did last year. This is a seasonal business, and maybe the weather was better now than it was last year. And we can see, what rate people are converting. Out of 100 visitors, how many are turning into, doing this goal that we want to. What percentage of them are doing that? And it looks like we're even converting at a better rate. It's not just a volume thing, which is great. And if you happen to be, selling e-commerce, if you can sell things online, if you can sell some blue, green, yellow widgets, you can, some of these cloud systems like Wix and Squarespace, they can, join up the dots, and some of the plugins will do that for you as well, to feed that e-commerce data into analytics. So maybe it's easier for you to see that information analytics or share it with, a marketing consultant rather than them having to, dig around in your e-commerce shop. What's even better is this data is then, applied into other places, so we can see it by medium, we can see it by, users and growth over time, as we can see here, and our conversion rate, which is quite, a useful thing to keep track of. Are we turning enough people into customers? Which products are selling the most and how many of them? And you can find that under the kind of e-commerce section. But let's have a look at how we can set those up. Let's take the example of a simple, one-page website where you will have a contact form and you want to track when people fill out that form. So what you can do here is, in the old version of analytics, you would go to kind of account, then into the property. So the way it's laid out in the old version is you have accounts, and then accounts can have kind of multiple properties. There may be your websites, and then your properties could have a view, where you can present different types of data. And within that view, you might want to define the goals you want to track. So you go in and you'd create a new goal, and then it gives you loads of lovely templates on how you can do that, or you can select custom down the bottom. This just helps provide you with the right ways to input the data and bucket the goals together. So let's say we're doing a contact form. So what we do is give a goal a name, define it as goal 1. And the easiest way is to have kind of a thank you page after your form. There are other ways of doing it. So let's say if another way is if you're using kind of Google Tag Manager, you can use fire off an event that would say when this form is submitted, it's got form ID, contact us, when submitted, trigger an event. Or the simple way that has been used for years is, you send people to a thank you page, and you'd say, right, what is that thank you page? So I've gone back into my site content area. I've used in the top right there, I've searched for the word thank, and I can see, yep, it's called thank you -you -page. And then loads of stuff on the end because it's an e-commerce site, and that's just the way it's set up at the moment. So if I wanted to capture that, I'd want to kind of only trigger this goal when people reach a page that begins with the words thank-you -page. There are options to do ends with, or to do kind of a regular expression, but in this example, we just want pages that begin with thank you. So we go and put that in there. And then at the bottom, just before the save, there's a kind of a verify this link, so kind of verify this goal. So you can kind of test what would be the conversion rate with this goal. And you can see here, when I hit that button, it's saying it's just under a 1% conversion rate. That feels about right for this website. So that's fine. I'm happy to kind of save that. So now we can track those goals that we saw back in when we were looking at the area of the website around goals. And now, so we can track the goals, we know where to find things in analytics. So let's get some more visibility on the data we're sending in, the people we're driving from campaigns and other places. And the way to do this is with kind of a granular tracking. In analytics, they're kind of called UTMs. And we can track kind of the source. So the source might be something like Google or your newsletter, or in this case, Instagram. We can track the medium which they came to us by. Was it via an email? Did they come by a cost per click campaign? Was it a banner we placed on a website? Then we can name the campaign. So we give it something we understand what it is and makes sense to us. So maybe if I was promoting this talk and running some ads, I might call this the Google Analytics talk campaign. And then you can have an option to enter kind of campaign terms. Now, in a search campaign, that would be kind of like the keywords or the search queries that you're showing up for. But in this kind of context of social media, I could put in maybe like the ad group or the targeting name. So here let's say I want to target people who viewed my website in the last 30 days. So I've called it viewed the website last 30 days. And then let's give even more detail so I can really understand what's going on. And that advert or kind of social media post, let's give that a piece of a name, so I know when that comes through, that's the one that drove the traffic. And in this handy tool, the link is here. If you search for kind of Google Analytics, UTM tagging, there's a links in the slide as well, campaign URL builder. You can see at the bottom, it's gone and generated you this tracking URL string with all that tracking on the end. You've probably been on many websites around the internet and click things and seen really long strings in the address bar. Well, this is what it's for. It's so when you get into analytics, you can understand where people have come from. So you could, well, let's pause. Maybe there's questions. So we can track things. We've done some campaign tracking, set up some UTMs. We can now view those in our different reports. And we have...
Hi, James.
Hello.
Yeah, we do actually have questions, and a few of them are from me.
That's fine. So I wasn't speaking fast enough to skip the questions. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. So the first question was, I think before that. So Victoria asked, what is a reasonable bounce rate? And do you know what to tweet if it's high?
Sure. So like I said, I think context is really important. If you were driving people to a landing page from a campaign and there was only one thing they could do on it, and that one thing was fill out the form, and for your business it would be great if 10% of people filled out that form, and that would give you enough inquiries, then you might have a 90% bounce rate, and you probably wouldn't mind because the goal of the page is to do one thing. Whereas if you were looking at your homepage or your wider site and you saw a 90% bounce rate and people, there's loads of links in your navigation and people weren't clicking on them and going around, you're like, oh, I gave people lots of options and they still bounced. So it's really important to understand that context. Are you sending them to a blog, but you don't mind if they read and leave? Are you sending them to a landing page, or are you looking at the whole site? I see bounce rates for like a whole website somewhere between the region of kind of 30 and 60%. It is kind of for a general website, and that's quite a wide range, I appreciate. But if it's outside that range, is it a landing page of some kind? If it's really low, like 5% or below 10%, maybe your tracking's broken and you're double firing, or you've got some really engaging things on the page that people are doing. And how could you improve it? Well, yeah, you could. If your goal is to get people to not bounce and to go deeper into the site, give them options and try and convince them to take up those options and go in and browse around the website, would be my advice there.
Yeah. James, I actually have a question here just to get your point, because there's a bit of controversy around bounce rate and exit page.
Yes.
So is the bounce rate literally when no one does anything, or so is scrolling, for example, part of what makes a page have been viewed or not? Because if someone is just reading a blog, right, so they scrolled on the page, they didn't click anything, but then they exited, is this a bounce rate?
I think in most cases, yes. I'd have to check. I know you can. I'd have to check in the new version of analytics, but I know in the old one, people would maybe add kind of custom event code that would say has scrolled, whatever percentage depth in a page, and then they'd add those as events in Google Analytics. And then this again gets a bit more complex. There's two types of events. You can have events that do and don't count towards bounce rates. You can have events that are just there to measure things, or you can set up events that say, no, they did something engaging on the page, which is, just as good as going to view another page. So don't count that as a bounce.
Exactly.
Let's say you've got like a 3D product viewing tool, so people can, swizzle your product around and view it in 3D. They might do that, and that's quite engaging with the page, and then they left. But in all intents and purposes, they did something quite engaging with your site. So you might not want to count that as a bounce. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it helps. So it is only possible to know if it was like basically to disregard the bounce rate if we have a tag manager or a tagging kind of system to understand that there has been an engagement without any actual click, right? We need that tagging and triggering.
You do, or it looks like in the new version of Google Analytics, they take care of some of that for you. So it knows if someone's hit play on a video, it knows, it's doing some of that work for you. But always, and I believe they've removed bounce rate from a new version of Analytics as well, or at least the word bounce rate. There's, you've got to use these metrics. This is why when I was looking at some of those previous screens, it's like, so what's the time on site and the bounce rate and the number of pages viewed? I'm kind of looking at all those metrics together to paint a picture rather than, one on its own as such.
Right, good, thanks. Another question from Lillian. So she said some of the features available on Squarespace are the same as the key features in Google Analytics. Are they not as accurate, or is it important to do both?
Right. Yeah. I haven't used Squarespace much at all, really. But I know a lot of web platforms have their own kind of reporting and dashboards and things like that. And I guess that's what you're talking about is, there's probably some kind of reporting metrics in Squarespace. And they're probably pretty good. I know when I've used a few, I know WordPress comes with one. I always end up getting to a point where I'm like, oh, I wish I knew that, and it's not there, but it would be in Google Analytics. So I found over the years that external tools like Google Analytics, or if you work in enterprise, things like Adobe Analytics and stuff like that, often have more metrics than the built-in ones in your content management system. So if you want to dig a bit deeper, it's always worth kind of adding things like Google Analytics. It can just give you that extra bit of insight sometimes. Actually,
so not only Squarespace, I use Wix, but the idea is about accurate information. And so I've been finding discrepancy even by using MailChimp, like the report I get from MailChimp for my email letter, and the numbers I get from Google Analytics. So I always say, let's just take them with a pinch of salt,
they're all going to track things slightly differently. The technology is going to be slightly different. The key thing to do is, if you are reporting regularly, don't switch between platforms. Don't go this month I'm going to report from Squarespace metrics, then in 2 months' time I'm going to switch to Google Analytics, because then you can't compare like for like. And then when you're dealing with small numbers, it can really, skew things. Oh, did I get 10 or did I get 11 visitors last month? And it can really become quite apparent. Just be consistent on which tool you're using. They're all going to have different flaws and accuracies. So just pick one, stick with it. None of these things are going to be perfect. There's always going to be bots that might skew your stats, or people doing weird things. None of these systems are perfect.
True. That's a good point. There was a question actually from me about when you said about the thank you page. So one of the websites I'm reporting on, for example, they don't actually have a thank you page that people go to. So basically the slug, there is no slug thank you page. So is it necessary, absolutely necessary, if we want to set up a goal for that one, to create a thank you page, or is it pop-up will do?
No, it's not. I mean, that's quite an old and simplistic way. If I'm critical of myself for presenting it that way, there are, so I haven't used it enough yet. But looking at the kind of the new analytics, it seems to be pretty good at capturing when events happen. So I would not be surprised if it can capture when a form is completed and capture that event, because I know you can do that in Google Tag Manager. In Google Tag Manager, which is, so if you've got lots of different codes you need to put on your website, Google Analytics, Facebook, Pinterest tags, you would use a tag manager, and Google does one to put all of those on. And you can trigger events for when you want to trigger different codes. And one of those ways of triggering it is to say, when the form that has the ID value of contact us is submitted, so someone clicks that button, trigger these tracking codes. And that might include a Google Analytics event, your Google Ads conversion pixel, or your Pinterest conversion pixel, or whatever else. So Tag Manager is an easy way to do that. And probably in the new version of Analytics, they're capturing those events. So you just then need to, when the goal, instead of defining a goal on a URL, you would define it on an event in Analytics. And I can share some of that later to follow up.
Right. No, thank you. I think it was also a matter of, because this website doesn't have a tag manager, but enough about that. So yeah, go ahead and continue your presentations, and yeah, keep the questions coming, guys, and we will be taking breaks to take them later.
So now we've got all this information, we've tagged it, we've set our goals. Let's try and present it in a way that means something to us. So in the current analytics, you can go to kind of customizations and dashboards and create a dashboard there. And my mouse is on the wrong bit. There we go. And what that can give us is quite a quick and simplistic dashboard where you can view some stats. They'll give you kind of predefined templates, and you can present the information you want and then kind of edit it as you need. And you can drag in different kind of metrics, and there's lots of different templates you can use as well. What Google will probably be pushing you more towards as well is using their external product called Data Studio, which is kind of a one-stop shop for presenting data. So when you hit kind of Google Data Studio, there's options for kind of templates and different dashboards. This is one of the quick Google Analytics ones. And you can see it's kind of presented all the quick key information you might need to see around your website and your business, kind of all in one place. And if we wanted, you can edit these different modules. They're all different kind of components of the dashboard. And there's loads of great templates out there to kind of get you started on Google Tag Manager, and equally within Analytics to import those in. What I find, has been the most successful when working with teams is, to have a dashboard of some kind, even if you're just taking screenshots out of Analytics, or building one of these dashboards and reporting on it weekly or monthly. Just always looking at those stats. What gets, you're measuring it, you're looking at it, then you can manage it and stay on top of it. And that consistency of looking at it and a dashboard can be quite a useful way to do that. So resources, and I can share these slides later. We've got Google Data Studio and the URL builder we used, the plugin for WordPress, and how to set up the code in Wix. Also, if I was to, Avinash, he's a digital marketing evangelist from Google. He's written books like Web Analytics 2.0. Following him on LinkedIn, joining his email newsletter. He is an absolute fountain of knowledge of all things analytics. If you wanted to kind of take your game to the next level, that would be a great place to start. Is following him and what he puts out into the world. Thank you for your time. That's me. I've been doing digital marketing for 12 years now. Feel free to reach out, talk pay-per-click marketing, digital marketing, analytics. Always happy to help where I can. And I'm sure we've got some more questions.
Let's see. Actually, thank you, James. So we do have questions that we've received prior to the talk. So I'm just going to pull these out. So the first question, how can I leverage Google Analytics to optimize my internet marketing business?
Yeah. So I think the key one there is, and that can probably apply to any business, not just an internet marketing one, is to, monitor things like, am I getting more people to my website who might become customers, and tracking that and monitoring it. Where are they coming from, like we looked at before? And can I get more people from those sources? And are they doing the kind of things I want them to do? And then looking at that data, you can kind of leverage it to be like, not enough people are converting. What can I do to tweak my website and get more people, to take up my internet marketing services? Take my website. Is anybody viewing my blog? No. Maybe I need to write some different content. Lots of people are viewing this post. Maybe I should write more of that content because people like it. So I think kind of answering those kind of questions in analytics is where you can start to leverage it to optimize your business.
Yeah. Another question was, does analytics really add value to worry about for a one-person business? And I think you just answered this kind of question.
It's kind of similar. I can appreciate it might not be worth the effort for some people, although I think we've demonstrated the effort can be quite minimal. If I haven't convinced you today to use Google Analytics, if you've got any kind of analytics in your content management system or somewhere, at least be looking at that regularly. Are you growing? Are things declining? Are you getting more people on your site? At the very least, be looking at that. But as we saw, some of I've scratched the surface on some of the insights you can get. So I would say it's probably up to you. I'd say it's 50-50 on a small website, but if you've got a couple of hours to spend to just set it up, and then once it's set up, you don't have to do anything else but check it every now and then. So yes, there's a little bit of work setting it up, but then it's there. It's tracking forever, and you can check back in a year's time and find out that interesting stuff that you might want to answer questions about.
Yeah. There is a question here. I'm not sure though if the person is here to clarify, but their question is, I would like to know if there are some standard analytics that could work across campaigns. Is it clear to you? Maybe it's not.
Yeah. So I think what might be the answer to this question is that when we were setting up the tagging for different campaigns, I guess some common metrics that apply across different campaigns, whether they're an email, social media, paid search ads, is, well, how many people are they generating? Are they staying on the site a long time? Are they bouncing? Are they leaving? Are they viewing lots of pages? These are all kind of common metrics that apply to different traffic sources. And then the most important one, are they doing the things I want them to do? Are they filling out the contact form? Are they completing the goals? So then when you can view that and you can compare your campaigns within your analytics, with those goals, I'd call those the kind of standard analytics that you would compare across different campaigns. So I guess the short answer is yes.
Yeah. There is a question also, you talked slightly about it in your presentation, how to dive a bit deeper to work my social media. Would you like to add anything about that?
Yeah. So as I showed there, it was kind of like a social media ad, and I was tracking it. Some great, using that UTM tool to kind of create custom tags. What you could do is, you see a lot of people on Instagram, because you can only have one link. They'll use things like Linktree, which is great, gives you lots of options. And then if you looked in Google Analytics, you see, wow, I'm getting loads of traffic from Linktree. What does that mean? If you've used Linktree on your Twitter, on your Instagram, on your Facebook, you've now lost that insight as to where they came from. So I guess one thing to kind of deep dive with your social media would be is, set up custom, linking and tracking from your different profiles or your different call to actions. So then you can see where they've come from, because sometimes otherwise, that can get lost. It might just be, if someone's come from an app and it's gone straight to your website, that sometimes the data can get lost and it's, you don't know where they've come from. It will come through as, direct source or, no traffic. So putting kind of tracking in place can help you, uncover some of that, but also not let things get, lost. And if you're putting out, let's say you're promoting your blog posts and you've promoted it across different platforms, tagging up, maybe you've promoted it a couple of different times and you've worded or put different pictures in the post. You could then, track that with the UTMs under the kind of the content section. This might be image 1, image 2, video, video of a skyline, and you could then understand which posts are driving people through to your website and through to your blog in a bit more detail.
Cool, thanks. Another one is, how can I utilize free services to boost my business viewability? I think they're maybe referring to like kind of freebies and these kind of items on websites.
Yeah, maybe, or I was reading maybe a slightly different way.
Okay.
And what my first thought was, things like maybe Google My Business. That's a free service you can use to kind of boost your business visibility in the search results.
Right.
But equally, you could be offering free services on your website to, increase your engagement, or offering free downloads or such like, or ebooks or, pieces of content. But if you wanted to boost your visibility, I guess what today we've been talking about is once you've put those things in place to boost your visibility, maybe a directory listing or Google My Business listing, social media profile. We're then today talking about how do we track whether it's working. But yeah, things like Google My Business are a great thing to add some visibility in the search results. And again, that's another place you can add a custom kind of UTM tracking code, because what will happen is if you don't, it'll just get lumped into the Google organic. So what I did a year ago for a client was, added a custom UTM code into the Google My Business, and then we discovered, wow, like 30% of people are coming from the Google My Business listing link. I better make sure that, the images in my Google My Business profile are good, and the wording's all up to date, and my opening hours are correct, and maybe I could put posts through my, Google My Business to let people know what's going on. So yes, there's free services out there that you can use to boost your visibility, and then what you want to be doing is tracking them, and then you can understand where you can reprioritize which of those free assets you can leverage more. And I guess it's also worth remembering that Google Analytics is free. It's free. Yeah. So when people set things up and go, oh, why isn't it showing me any stats right now? It's free. Give it a little bit of time. Yes, you can pay for the enterprise version of analytics if you've got the money, but this one is free. It's free because Google wants you to be able to manage your websites better, to make better websites, understand how people are using them and the metrics. Because if you understand your metrics, maybe you're more likely to spend money on ads and understand how the ads are working, which is their primary product. So, we'll give you this nice piece of software so you can track everything, and then you can feel confident that lots of people are coming from Google search, and maybe I should put some of my money into search ads.
The last question from the Reggie question was, how can I put tracking pixels into certain pages? I think you've talked about sites like tracking and tag manager.
Yeah, so I think plugins and tag managers is the easy first way to go. If you're going to put tags and kind of tracking pixels, things I would, if they're ones which are designed to be across the whole site, which Google Analytics is, I would put them across the whole site rather than just certain pages. So you can see, join all the docs together around how people are using the whole website. But equally, tracking pixels, you can get ones which are for certain pages, like we saw, like a thank you page. And there you just want to be, editing the page source, viewing the source within your content management system, or editing the page. They normally have lots of instructions around them. So just follow those step by step. And if they don't have enough instructions, a very quick Google search of WordPress with Elementor Google conversion pixel normally, fingers crossed, gives you the result. Or equally, come into Cambridge social media Facebook group and just throw the question up there. I know there's lots of people in there who would be happy to help.
That's true. Sorry, I think it's my WhatsApp is on. So let's take the questions we have here. If we have a limited amount of time that we can dedicate to Google Analytics, what are the most important metrics we should look at?
I would say the number of users that are coming to your site on a weekly, monthly basis. Is that going up? Is it going down? Does it match with your seasonality of your business? Maybe you're busy at Christmas, maybe you're busy in the summer. Does it match with your expectations? And track that over time. And if you've got a little bit more time, set up some kind of goals or e-commerce tracking. And are people doing enough of the things I want them to do? How many people are contacting me? How much revenue am I generating from my site? If you track nothing else, just track that. How many people and how many are doing the things I want them to do? Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think the goals as well, setting up the goals on the website. If you're very clear on what you want them to do, maybe contact you, buy this service, or download this thing. These are 3 goals that, if you know them, you're clear on them, and you set them on the website, really, that's all you probably need to track if you have very limited time and you don't want to do anything. I don't think we have more questions here, but there are some conversations saying, and thank you, and they will look at Google Analytics within, saying you will look at Google Analytics, see what is available. We're seeing if there are many questions, but actually I wanted to ask about how to access the new platform, because you were going through it, but I think I missed how to actually go, because I can see that they announced it, but I don't know how to go to it.
Yeah, so at the moment you'd set it up kind of like setting up from scratch, like a new profile. So that you can't, because it's completely new technology, it also means, I think, like a new tracking code or a new ID. So when there's been previous updates, you can kind of switch between the 2 interfaces, whereas I think this update's a bit different. So you'd literally be adding it to your website in parallel to your existing analytics. And then and I had to quickly add it in today, because when I went to set up a new Google Analytics account, it steers you to go down the new one. Unless at the end there's like an option to say, or use the old version, which is called Universal Analytics. So if you went to create a new analytics account, it's going to throw you down this updated version that they released in October. But if you're already running analytics and you want to have a look at the new version, then you're going to have to go ahead and kind of create a new property. So within your account, I think there's like an option to create a new property, and it will probably steer you to create it in the newest format as such.
And what do you think about it, just quickly, when you had a look?
Yeah, like the many different platform changes I've seen over the years, my head is still getting used to the new way things look, which is always hard when you're flicking between new and old. But I think some of the stuff I've seen around, like you said, like capturing these events without you having to tag your website in clever ways, and some of the things where it's presenting graphs and different bits of data quite nicely and comparing, the current versus the past by default, from what I can see, was quite nice. And I think it's going to future-proof things a bit more as the web evolves, as people create more apps and more different ways of complex interacting with websites and apps.
Yeah, somebody is saying that the new version doesn't work with Wix at the moment. Actually, my website is Wix, but that's one thing. I think we don't have more questions unless I'm missing, because there are some conversations happening, but they're not really questions. I hope I'm not missing anyone. I think that's it. Yeah. So there's going to be a replay, and the slides can be shared as well if anyone would like them. And also you can connect with James after this. Thank you, James, for brilliant insights. Yes, thank you. If you have anything else to add, if you would like to say anything, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me today. It's a great community, great conferences. Love attending them. Always happy to talk digital marketing, and if those slides are useful, yeah. If not, if there's anything a bit more detailed, just reach out. My LinkedIn's on there. My website, jameshume.net. Just reach out, and I'll see what I can do and point you in the right direction.
Actually, I'm going to be the first one who's going to connect with you, because I have lots of questions. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope this was helpful, and we will see you next time. Thank you for the people who are saying thank you. I can't see names, but people are saying good stuff. James, Ed, Hannah, I'll be catching up soon. We don't know who it is, but yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone, and have a lovely day. And thank you so much, James. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.